At long last, Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives was elected. It took 4 days until Republican Representative Kevin McCarthy took the Speaker's gavel. Hi, I am Yu, your navigator in this channel. Well, it was in fact on the 5th day that Kevin McCarthy was sworn in and delivered a speech in the House chamber. While the Speaker election was being held, the House was nearly paralyzed, and the members-elect were unable to be sworn in. Is it a democracy? Yes. Under democracy, you must listen to the voices of even a handful of people. However, dictators in the world were laughing. Probably. Hello again. The new year 2023 has arrived, and the 118th Congress convened on January the 3rd, as written in the 20th Amendment, Section 1 of the United States Constitution. But as most of the viewers of this channel may have witnessed, the House of Representatives got stuck from the beginning in electing a new speaker. Before looking into what happened, let's review the result of the midterm elections and check the current party breakdown of both chambers. The U.S. Senate. The Democratic Party won by increasing a seat. As you know, after the runoff in Georgia, Senator Kyrsten Sinema from Arizona announced her plan to leave the Democratic Party and register as an independent. So, the party breakdown of the Senate is now 50 Democrats, with the help of 2 independents and 49 Republicans. Let's count Sinema as an independent. Even so, the Democrats will keep controlling the Senate with Vice President Kamala Harris as a tiebreaker. The House of Representatives. The Republican Party won the U.S. House by increasing the number of seats, but not as dramatically as expected. They secured 222 seats, and Democrats gained 213. After the midterm election, Virginia's re-elected Representative Donald McKeachin passed away. In Virginia, a special election for District 4 will be held on February 21st, 2023. We need to follow the result, but the outcome wouldn't change the House majority in any event. But a new scandal has come out. It's about New York Republican George Santos, who won in the U.S. House election. He reportedly lied about his background, including information written in his resume, his educational background, occupational background, family background, financial background. Santos admitted embellishing part of his resume. New York District Attorney is going to investigate the fabrications and inconsistencies. If Santos resigns, well, we need to wait and see the next development. That's where we are now after the midterm elections 2022. The presidential election 2024 has virtually begun, and this channel is shifting the focus to the presidential election. But before that, let us first take a look at what happened in the Congress. The turmoil of the U.S. House Speaker election. Let's think why the U.S. House Speaker is so important. There are many aspects. But what we think of first is that the House Speaker is the second in the presidential line of succession. If the U.S. President dies or resigns or is unable to hold his or her office, the first person to take over the president is vice president. Now it's Kamala Harris. But if there aren't both president and vice president at the same time, it's Speaker of the House who takes over the presidency. This is according to the Presidential Succession Act of 1947, and with regard to the proceedings of the Congress, House Speaker must be elected first. This is the House proceedings on its first day. First thing the members-elect have to do is to choose the new Speaker. And the new Speaker is sworn in. Then the members-elect take the oath of office. And so on. The proceedings will continue. But without electing new Speaker, the House wouldn't move on to the next business, including making laws and everything. Serious. Now the basics. How is House Speaker elected? Parties choose their own nominees before the beginning of the new session. For the 118th Congress, the Democratic Caucus nominated Hakeem Jeffries from New York. The Republican Conference chose Kevin McCarthy from California. New Speaker is elected by roll call vote on the floor. And the majority party nominee wins and becomes new Speaker. Traditionally, since 1923, Speakers have been elected by one ballot. In 1923, the Speaker was elected in the 9th ballot. Representative McCarthy was elected new Speaker in the 15th ballot. So, it's the first time since 1923, 100 years ago, that plural ballots were held in the election of House Speaker. What happened? During the midterm elections, we saw a number 218 repeatedly. That indicates a majority in the House. As we saw earlier, the Republican Party holds 222 seats in the House, slightly but over 218. There's one vacancy due to the death of Representative McKitchen, so the total number of the House representatives is 434, and the majority is still 218. However, there was a rebellion within the Republican Party. 20 Republicans didn't vote for McCarthy in most of the ballots. Who are they? Annie Biggs, Arizona; Dan Bishop, North Carolina; Lauren Boebert, Colorado; Josh Brecheen, Oklahoma; Michael Cloud, Texas; Andrew Clyde, Georgia; Eli Crane, Arizona; Byron Donalds, Florida; Matt Gaetz, Florida; Bob Good, Virginia; Paul Gosar, Arizona; Andy Harris, Maryland; Anna Luna, Florida; Mary Miller, Illinois; Ralph Norman, South Carolina; Andrew Ogles, Tennessee; Scott Perry, Pennsylvania; Matthew Rosendale, Montana; Chip Ray, Texas; Keith South, Texas. In the first round, Donalds from Florida voted for McCarthy. Most of the others voted for either Biggs or Jim Jordan from Ohio, who is one of the founding members of the Freedom Caucus. But Jordan himself voted for McCarthy. Anyway, 10 voted for Biggs and 6 voted for Jordan, and 2 others voted for a former House member and Donalds. In the second round, they unanimously voted for Jordan, and Donalds joined to vote for Jordan in the third round. The Democrats were united only to vote for Jeffries. The tally was always 212. Jeffries were always ahead but didn't reach majority.
No member-elect having received the majority of the votes cast, a speaker has not been elected. A speaker has not been elected. A speaker has not been elected. A speaker has not been elected.
There is a great change in the 12th round on the fourth day, January the 6th. 13 of the 20 holdouts voted for McCarthy. And in the 14th round, Harris joined the others and McCarthy got 216. 6 remained in the rebellion. Biggs and Good voted for Jordan. Rosendale and Crane voted for Biggs. And Boebert and Gates responded as present. McCarthy got 216 but didn't reach majority. In the 15th round, McCarthy got 216 again and was elected. Why? Because the 6 members answered present. House Speaker election requires majority of the votes cast by members for a person by surname. In the 14th round, 4 of the 6 anti-McCarthy members voted for either Jordan or Biggs, so the total number of votes by surname was 432, and the majority was 217 or more. In the 15th round, all the 6 anti-McCarthy members responded present and didn't vote by surname. As a result, the total number of the votes by surname was 428, half of which was 214. McCarthy was elected by the same number, but eventually reaching a majority of the votes by surname.
With 6 recorded as present. Therefore, the Honorable Kevin McCarthy of the State of California, having received a majority of the votes cast, is duly elected Speaker of the House of Representatives.
It was a historic Speaker election. Last time it was 1923, at the beginning of the 68th Congress, when plural ballots were held to elect House Speaker. In the year, Representative Frederick Huntington GILLETT from Massachusetts was the Republican nominee for re-election. He was first elected House Speaker in 1919 after the Republican Party won a huge majority in the midterm elections and served as House Speaker for 2 terms during 66th and 67th Congress. But in 1923, it was right after the Republican Party lost more than 70 seats in the midterm. Like this year, he faced rebellion from within his own party. And it took 9 ballots for GILLETT to be elected. The 34th Congress also made a record. The House Representatives voted 133 times to elect the Speaker. The election started on December the 3rd, 1855 and continued until February the 2nd, 1856, so it took 2 months. But it was the time when the nation was facing a serious division over slavery. 5 years after the 133 votes to elect the Speaker, the Civil War broke out. Is comparing the current situation to the time of the Civil War too sensational? Well, let me stop here talking about the Civil War. There had been 14 times that the Congress held plural ballots in electing a Speaker. The 118th Congress became the 15th. So, what kind of people are they? the House Republicans who voted against McCarthy over and over again. Freedom Caucus is the name of a group which frequently appeared during the Speaker election. What is it, and why did they vote against McCarthy? Major U.S. media, without exception, report that Freedom Caucus, which was established in 2015, is a group of far-right, ultra-conservative Republicans. It has roots in Tea Party movement. The members are believed to be anti-establishment, dissatisfied with the way Republican leaders lead the party, dissatisfied with the way they deal with the Democrats. In 2015, then Speaker John Boehner resigned due to the pressure from the group. He was harshly criticized by Freedom Caucus of not being adamant in negotiating with the Democrats. And McCarthy's bid to take over Boehner's post was also hampered by them for the same reason. What's interesting is an article of the New York Times that indicates 19 of the 20 representatives who voted against McCarthy are associated with the Freedom Caucus. But does that mean not all of them are members of Freedom Caucus? It's actually uncertain. There seems to be no official list of the members, and media are just guessing. What's interesting is, again, the New York Times reports that 17 were endorsed by former President Trump in 2022 and 12 denied the result of the 2020 election. So most of them are Trump-related. Again, it's interesting because McCarthy was also endorsed by Trump in his midterm campaign. During the Speaker election, Trump wrote a comment on his own SNS, Truth Social. It's now time for all of our great Republican House members to vote for Kevin. Close the deal, take the victory. It didn't work though. Very complicating. But somehow, deals were done between McCarthy and the 20 members, it seems. According to the media reports, McCarthy agreed to tying spending cuts to debt ceiling increase. Raising the debt ceiling has been the focus of the Congress in the last years. If the Congress cut spendings, there would be a great impact both domestically and internationally. Who pays the social welfare, student loans, the public services? Will the United States really cut the military aid to Ukraine? But on the other hand, if the debt ceiling, which is limiting the amount of money for the government to borrow, is not allowed to increase, there is a possibility that the U.S. reaches the point of default. And another demand was giving Freedom Caucus members more seats in key committees. It is reported that they wanted seats in the Rules Committee. The House Committee on Rules controls what bill will come to the floor, as well as amendments, and decides the terms of the debate. In other words, the Rules Committee is a right-hand committee of the Speaker in managing and deciding the procedures and the proceedings of the floor. McCarthy agreed to allow a single House member to force a vote to vacate the Speaker's chair, which means anyone can call for such a motion when the Speaker doesn't meet the demand of a certain lawmaker. House Freedom Caucus usually criticizes the way the Republican leadership negotiates and compromises with the Democrats. With all these concessions, McCarthy's power is diminished from the beginning, and he's always under a threat of another rebellion from within his own party. President Biden said, "It's a little embarrassing is taking so long and the way they are dealing with one another. How do you think this looks to the rest of the world? It's not a good look, not a good thing. This is the United States of America, and I hope they get their act together. The question is it a democracy where only a handful of members control the House? It's just like taking the House as hostage, and McCarthy paid some sort of ransom by agreeing to the concessions. Negotiating and compromising with opponents are democratic ways of settling issues. However, it's obvious that there's always a risk the House gets stuck and outcomes are not always what the majority of the people want. The ramification is that the concessions might bring about more turmoil in the House. In an autocratic, dictatorial society, there wouldn't be such a situation. In China, for example, the Communist Party one-sidedly decides everything without allowing any rebellion, without allowing minor voices to be reflected on policies. In China, too, only a handful of party executives control the nation. But the decision-making process is very efficient. If the U.S. House continued to be taken hostage by a small group of people, the Chinese leaders would laugh and say American democracy is not working. Our democracy is more effective. Can the U.S. citizens accept such an assessment of the U.S. democracy? China is making friends in Africa, Asia, and Latin America by generously endorsing and helping autocratic regimes. Someday in the future, many of the dictators in the world might think American democracy does not work and gets nowhere. What's necessary is wisdom. Let's see the party breakdown of the House again. In the House, the Republicans won a majority of 222 and the Democrats currently have 212. And there is one vacancy, so the difference between the two parties is 10 seats, but the majority is 218 and over. So the Republicans only have 4 seats as a buffer to secure the majority. What if 20 Republicans oppose the way McCarthy handles the House? When the number of seats is close, the majority party usually needs to negotiate with the minority party to get bills passed. Now the Republican Party has holdouts within its party. McCarthy will have to deal with the Freedom Caucus first, and then the House Democrats, and next the Senate. It's a tough work. But there may be lawmakers on the side of Democrats who want to get some bills passed. If cooperation exists between the Republican mainstream and moderate Democrats, the House may find a solution to the current situation. This is how things usually work in the congressional politics. Is this idea too optimistic under the current situation? Well, let's see what's going to happen. Don't let the dictators laugh at the United States of America. This series of video on the U.S. midterm elections will end next time and move on to the presidential election 2024. The next topic is whether former President Donald Trump will survive. I'll see you soon. Bye.